Tov, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom. Good to be here together to celebrate Shabbat this beautiful morning. We're going to begin our prayers with our morning blessings. So we turn to page 71. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. How good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. Here in this house, we enter into this house, the dwelling place of your glory, O God. The page, let's join together in reading back. We have come together to strengthen our bonds with our people Israel. Like Jews of generations past, we celebrate the grandeur of creation. Like Jews of every age, we echo our people's ancient call for justice. We turn together to the top of page 73 for the words of Elohai Neshama. Elohai Neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. God, the soul that you have given me is pure. morning when we wake up, we say blessings for learning the study of Torah. So we join together in that bracha, in that blessing at the top of page 74. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam, asher yishon b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, la'asot b'divrei Torah, b'divrei Torah, la'asot b'divrei Torah, b'divrei Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam, asher yishon b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, la'asot b'divrei Torah, b'divrei Torah, la'asot b'divrei Torah, b'divrei Torah. Elu dvarim she'en lahem shi'ur, she'adam ochel perotehem ba'olam hazeh, v'hakeren kayemet lo le'olam haba ve'elu hein. These are the mitzvot which have no limit. One eats of their fruit at this time, yet their full effect is without measure. Kibud av va'em, to honor father and mother. Ugemilut chasadim, to perform acts of love and kindness. V'hashkamat beit hamidrash shacharit ve'arvit, to attend the house of study daily. V'haknasat orchim, to welcome the stranger. Uvikur cholim, to visit the sick. V'haknasat chatan v'chala, to bring marriage partners to the chuppah. Ulvayat hamet, to accompany the dead to burial. V'iyun tefillah, to pray with sincerity. V'hava'at shalom ben adam l'chavero, to make peace when there is strife. V'talmud Torah keneged kulam, and the study of Torah is equal to them all because it leads to them all. So let's turn together to the words of Birchot Shabbat Yom, our blessings for each day. We thank God for our physical ability to wake up in the morning, to open our eyes, to stretch our bodies, to use all that we have been given, to go out into the world and do God's mitzvot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lesech livina, le'avchin ben yom u'ben layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani b'tzalo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani bar chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish armim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokeiv kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechim mitzadei gaber. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael v'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael v'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai We continue together in the words of Psuke de Zimra, Psalms and Poems of Praise. On the bottom of page 82, we continue in the English. Albert, would you lead us there on page 82?
Yeah. We praise the one who spoke and the word that he did. We praise the source of creation.
We praise the one whose word is deed, whose thought is fact. We praise the one whose compassion covers the earth and is gracious.
We praise the living and eternal God. We praise the name of our Redeemer.
With songs of praise we extol you and proclaim you our sovereign God. For you are the source of life in the universe. We offer blessings to you through our songs of praise. We continue in Songs and Psalms of Praise, Psalm 150, on page 89. We continue together in the English on the top of page 91. Harold, would you lead us there?
At the top, let every living soul praise your eternal name, O God. Let the breath of every creature sing forever to your glory. For all eternity you alone are God. There is no creator but you.
Though our mouths should overflow with song as the sea, our tongue is with melody as the roaring waves, our lips with praise as the heaven's wide expanse. And though our eyes were to shine as the sun and the moon, our arms extend like eagle's wings, our feet speed swiftly as deer, still we could not fully thank you, God of all ages, or bless your name enough for even one of your infinite kindnesses to our ancestors and to us.
Therefore, O God, lips and tongue and heart and mind shall join to praise your name. Every tongue will yet affirm you, and every soul give you allegiance.
As it is written, all my lips shall say, Adonai, who is like you? And David sang, bless Adonai, O my soul, and let all that is within me bless God's holy name.
God abides forever, the high and holy one. Therefore let all who are righteous sing God's song. Praise befits the upright. We praise you, God of wonders.
So help with your praise, who delights in song, the only one, light of the universe. Yekadal v'yekadash me Rabba. Amen. Be'amad yivrach yirtev yamlik malchutei. B'chayechom u'b'yomechom u'chayedecho b'Yisrael. B'kavod pa'ar v'yitormam v'yitnasei, v'yitador v'yitaleh v'yitalah, shmei yirkudusha. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, v'nechemata, tamir ha'ne'ah, v'yimehu amen. We rise for the Baruch Hu. Please be seated as we continue in the English for the words of creation. Ruth, would you lead us? Ruth Ostrow. There's two Ruths.
We praise you, eternal God, whose presence fills creation, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace and gives light for all. With compassion, you illumine the world and its inhabitants. Through your goodness, creation is continually renewed.
How you have varied works, all of them were made with wisdom. The universe is filled with your creative power. The stars and planets themselves radiate praise for you.
Cause a new light to shine upon the land, and may we be worthy to behold its splendor.
We praise you, eternal one, creator of life. In the middle of page 98. We praise you, eternal one, who chooses us, your people Israel, with love. And we rise on page 101, in body or spirit, as in love we declare that Adonai is our God. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Amen. As we continue on page 103 responsively, Michael, would you lead us there?
Hamet vayitzi, true and certain it is that you are God.
As we yearn for certainty in a constantly changing world, enable us to find its source in you.
Nahan v'kayom, firm and enduring is your name throughout all generations.
May our trust in you preserve us for generations to come.
Malchut v'chavi, beloved and precious are your teachings to our ancestors and to us.
By observing the traditions of our people, may we come to meet you as our ancestors did, and bring your presence into our lives.
Torah v'adir, awesome and majestic is the redemptive power that you have displayed for the people of Israel.
Our people witnessed your presence when you delivered us from slavery to freedom. In beholding your redeeming power, we discovered our own capacity for tikkun olam, the mending of the world.
Moses lifted his staff and showed us the power of trust. Waves of the sea swelled apart, and we crossed over to the shore of freedom.
Miriam lifted her timbrel and showed us the power of song. Waves of voices swelled together, and we gave thanks to you for the gift of freedom.
Elot Aliyom, like our ancestors, we raise our voices in song to the supreme God, the source of blessing.
We continue at the bottom of page 105 with prayer. We invite God's presence to suffuse our spirits and let God's will prevail in our lives. Prayer cannot bring water to parched fields, or mend a broken bridge, or rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an errant soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. Sur Yisrael, Kuma Bezra Yisrael, Udei Mecha Yehuda Yisrael, Go Aleinu, Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai, כשם שבתי שימו טוב ישמרו, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, אדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני נקראו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו מלכנו, ומושיענו ולא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי עיר ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד כל לך. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד כל לך. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך קדושתך נרגיש. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך קדושתך נרגיש. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד כל לך. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד כל לך. ושמך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד. ושמך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו הקדוש. Page 120. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens, let peace reign on us, on all Israel, and all the world. Oh, say shalom, oh, yeah, say shalom aleichem. We turn now to Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the order for reading of Torah on Shabbat morning. At the bottom of the page, Shirley Herman, would you lead us?
Somewhere out of time, in the mystery of time, somewhere between memory and forgetfulness, dimly though I remember how I once stood at your mountain trembling amid the fire and thunder, how I stood there, out of bondage in a strange land and afraid.
But you loved me and you benefited me, and I feasted on your words. And yes, I can remember how the thunder was my heart, and the fire was my soul.
Oh God, I do remember. The fire burns in me anew, and here I am once more a witness to that timeless moment, present now in the light of your Torah. I am renewed.
And at the bottom of the page, we rise to take the Torah from the Ark. wrote for this morning are Behar and Bechukotai. It's a double portion, and we are coming actually to the very end of the book of Vayikra, the end of Leviticus. I'm going to be reading this morning from the beginning of the second portion, Bechukotai, and that is Leviticus chapter 26, beginning with verse 3. So if you have the newer commentary, you're going to be following on page 865. If you don't have a commentary, they're over there in the book rack. There's the new ones and the older ones. The new ones have the word Torah written down the spine. And the older ones are the other ones that have all 5 books written down the spine. So again, for the newer commentary, you're on page 865. And the older commentary is on page 957, Leviticus chapter 26, beginning verse 3.
Yamot Rishon, Hashvi ben Yaakov Rachel.
Amen. Amen. Im bechukotai temechu, et mitzvotai tishmeru, v'asitam otam. V'natati gishmechem b'itam, v'nina ha'aretz yibula, v'etz hasadeh yitem piryo. V'hisig lachem daim shet batzir, u'batzir yachid et zera, v'achaltem l'slachmechem, v'sova, v'yishavtem lebetach bartzchem.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם, ותחת ידינו ברוך אתה אדוני, נותן התורה.
Amen.
Yamot Sheni, Yaakov ben Avraham Basara.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. V'natati shalom ba'aretz, u'shchavtem be'elim achrim, v'ashivoti chaya ra'a min ha'aretz, v'cherev lo tavor b'artzechem. Urdaftem et oivechem, v'naflu livnechem, l'charev v'rachu, v'chem chamisha mea, u'mea mikol rava yirdofu, v'naflu oivechem livnechem, l'charev, u'finiti alechem, v'hifreti etchem v'herbeiti etchem, v'hakimoti et briti etchem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. יישר כוח. מזל טוב.
Yamot Shlishi, Yaakov ben Shlomo Basara.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim,
Amen. Amen. V'chaltem yashan yashan v'yishan miprech chadash totzi v'natati mishkanei b'tochechem lo tigal nefesh etchem v'hitchalachti b'tochechem v'hiti lachem Elohim v'etem li le'am Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim mi'elahem avadim v'eshbor matot alechem v'olech etchem kol miniyut. Amen. Shakach.
Yamod Hamafia, Chaimir ben Moshe ben Nachama.
We rise as the Torah is lifted.
Yamod Hamafia,
Bezor Torah Asher Sam Moshe Livnei Bnei Yisrael Ani Adonai Le'yam Moshe Vezod HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Vezod HaTorah Vezod HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Vezod HaTorah Livnei Bnei Yisrael Vezod HaTorah Ani Adonai Le'yam Moshe Vezod HaTorah HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Vezod HaTorah Vezod HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Vezod HaTorah Livnei Bnei Yisrael Vezod HaTorah Ani Adonai Le'yam Moshe Vezod HaTorah Vezod HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Vezod HaTorah. Please be seated. Our Haftarah for this Shabbat morning is taken from the book of Jeremiah, beginning chapter 16, verse 19. You can find that in your newer commentary on page 880. And in the older commentary on page 1006. So again, that's Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 19. New commentary, page 880. Old commentary, page 1006. Ta'amod Rivka bat Avraham hamaftira. Please join us in the blessing for Haftarah, which is on page 131. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'minim tovim v'rasa b'divreihem ha'yavim melech Baruch atah Adonai Abocher b'Torah u'Moshe abdo u'Yisrael amo u'Yeh hamelech v'aseh.
Eternal One, my strength and my stronghold, my refuge in time of trouble. Nations from the ends of earth shall come to you and say, our ancestors inherited false gods, empty and utterly useless. How can human beings make gods? They are not gods at all. Therefore, I am letting them know once and for all, I will make them known, my might and power, and they shall know that I am called the Eternal. Judah's sin is inscribed with an iron pen, engraved with a diamond point on the tablet of their hearts and the horns of their altars, to remind their children of their altars and sacred poles near leafy trees on the high hills. I will give your wealth, all your treasures as spoil, to a country bumpkin, the Hararite, because of the sin of your high places throughout your borders. You yourself will lose the heritage I gave you, and I will make you serve your enemies in a land you do not know, for you have kindled the flame of my wrath to burn a long time. Thus says the Eternal One, cursed are those who trust in mortals, making mortal flesh their strength, turning their hearts from the Eternal. They shall be like a stunted tree in the desert, never seeing when good comes, dwelling in dry places in the wilderness, in a salt land where no one dwells. Blessed are those who trust in the Eternal, whose trust is in the Eternal. They shall be like a tree planted near water, sinking into roots by a watercourse, never noticing when the heat comes, its leaves green, careless of times of drought, never failing to bear fruit. The human heart is of all things the most deceitful, so perverse. Who can understand it? The Eternal search the heart and test the spirits, giving to all according to their ways, according to the fruit of their doings. Those who gain wealth by unjust means are like a partridge brooding eggs that do not hatch. In the middle of life it will forsake them. At the end they are known to be fools. A throne of glory, exalted from the beginning, is our holy shrine. O hope of Israel, the Eternal One, those who forsake you shall be put to shame. Those who turn from you are written in the dust. For they have forsaken the fountain of living waters, the Eternal. Heal me, Eternal One, only then shall I be healed. Save me, only then shall I be saved. For you are my praise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol ha'olamim, tzadik b'chol hadorot, ha'elan elan, ha'omer yoseh, ha'medaber u'kayim, shekol dvarav emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah, Shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'nucha, lechavod u'tiparet, al Yishbarach Shimcha, V'Fichol Chai Tamid V'Olam V'Hed, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We turn to page 132 for the words of Mishaberach, as we ask God's blessing on those who need healing of body and healing of spirit. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov v'Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May the one who blessed the patriarchs and matriarchs of our people also bless and heal those who require healing. On the Shabbat here at Solel, we are praying for Raymond and Francis Rigby, Eudoro Torres, Consuelo Franco, Dylan Kakel, Brian Bogach, Janet Brown, Wilfred Walker, Shirley Herman, Rick Valentine, Marlene Friedman, Jack Kudlath, Suzanne Shear-Stimson, Bernie McLennan, Nicola Proetti, Rebecca Bogle, Philip Shepard, Carl Katz, Raina Rowan, Gilon DeRuzi, Madeline Kitson, Kathy Kitson, Dee Hickey, Lorraine DaCosta, Adela Tsur, Al Lofsky, Evelyn Tyndall, Amanda Shank, Daniel Black, Jean Elizabeth Pitt, Karen Smith, Francis Van Tyne, and Bob Smith. I invite you as well to share aloud or to hold in your hearts the names of those for whom you are praying for healing on this Shabbat.
David Vanguard.
Suzanne Shear.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yuyim Alei Rachamim Aleichem. May the Holy One, Blessed One, treat them with compassion. May the Shekhinah rest upon them. They may be restored to wholeness both in body and in soul. And we say, Amen. And we turn to the words of the prayer for the state of Israel on page 135. As we are celebrating Israel's 75th, this coming Monday is the secular date for the founding of the state. We rise in body or spirit to recite these words together. Sur Yisrael v'goalo, barech na et medinak Yisrael, Hag Shama Tikvatenu. Rock and Redeemer of Israel, place your blessing upon the state of Israel, the realization of our hope for a Jewish homeland. Send your light and your truth to all its inhabitants. Spread over them the shelter of your peace. Bestow insight upon its leaders, judges, and representatives, that they may pursue justice, freedom, and integrity. Visit blessing upon all your people Israel, wherever we dwell. Plant the love of Zion into our hearts, that our footsteps may raise to walk upon its soil. And may the vision of your prophet Isaiah soon be fulfilled. For Torah shall come forth from Zion, and God's word from Jerusalem. And let us say, Amen. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki nizgah shmo levato, Hodo eretz v'shamayim, vayarem kerem le'amo, tehillah lechol chasidah, livnei Yisrael amrovo. Hallelujah.
Ashirenu
So if I could have a few people help me hand out some handouts this morning. I'll give you some. Thanks, Zach. I think there should be enough to go around. You might have to, one or two people might have to share. As we are celebrating Israel's 75th, I thought we would take a look at some of the prayers that have been written. We just read one of them. If you want to keep your finger in the prayer book there and take a look at that one to compare as well, that's on page 135 in our Siddur. But a prayer for the welfare of the national government and its leaders has been part of Jewish liturgy from ancient days. And really, if we go back in time, we can trace this tradition over 2,000 years ago to the end of the Second Temple period. The importance for praying for the welfare of the ruling body was actually established by the prophet Jeremiah after the first exile from Jerusalem. In 586 BCE, Jeremiah tells the Jewish people who have been exiled, he says, "Seek the welfare of the city where I've caused you to be exiled, and pray to God on its behalf, for in its prosperity you shall prosper." So from there, by instructing the Jews to pray for the ruling government, Jeremiah was teaching them to recognize that in exile they were dependent on another rule. But that situation demanded that God be implored to direct the leaders of the country to rule the Jewish population justly. Now the first Siddur, the first prayer book that we have that includes a prayer for the government, comes from the 14th century, and the notes that we have tell us it's an established custom. And there have been hundreds of different prayers for various governments on which Jews have lived and live and exist today. And that background is important to understand the thinking of the authors of the prayer for the welfare of the state of Israel. So if you look on the left-hand column, I realize that if it were in Hebrew, we'd have it in the right-hand column, but since I have the English translation, I figured we'd lay it out that way, and it's also from oldest to newest. And we have the prayer that we recite on page 135 in our Siddur. I've also been sharing with you over the last couple of months another prayer that was written for the state of Israel by Rabbi Oded Mazor, and there are two others that are on this page. So this prayer for the state of Israel was composed in 1948 by Rabbi Yitzhak Halevi Herzog, who was the chief rabbi of Israel, and Rabbi Ben Zion Chai Uziel. There has been some debate over time how much but Shmuel Yosef Agnon, Shai Agnon, who is a wonderful poet, Israeli poet, how much he had to play a part in this. And there's some debate there that he did some finessing of the actual finished prayer that we have. But recently, within the last, I think, 5 years or so, they've uncovered some of the original documents in which the prayer was written. And it is very clear, actually, that Rabbi Herzog was the chief writer and the chief rabbi of this prayer. That's important, actually, because it helps us to understand what is here in thinking about it. So in 1948, this was a wonderful time and also a very challenging time because of what it took to actually establish the state of Israel. And so for the first time since antiquity, Jewish religious leaders had this opportunity to compose a prayer for the Jewish leaders of a Jewish state. They had to think about what they wanted it to express. Should it be about aspirations and hopes? Should it be a prayer for the leaders, as you would pray for political leaders of any country, without taking into account the meaning of Israel to many Jews? So here we have the translation. In the second column, we have a newer or more modern prayer that comes from our Israeli Reform movement within the last couple of years. And Then in the third column, we have a prayer for Israel at 75, also from the Reform movement in Israel by Rabbi Ayala Samuels. And that's, I think, one of the prayers that's been written in the current moment. And you'll see as we look at it, why, or perhaps what she has attempted to place into that particular prayer. And there are many, many others. But let's start by looking in the left column as we begin with the words Avinu Shabbat, which in English would translate to our Heavenly Father, or in our egalitarian days, our Heavenly Parent. Avinu Shabbat. So let's think about why that might be the opening. Does that sound like something that comes out of the Tanakh or the Siddur, out of the Bible or the prayer book? Avinu Shabbat, protector and redeemer of Israel. Bless thou, the translation I got is Old English, sorry. The state of Israel, which marks the dawn of our deliverance. Reshit Simchat Geulatenu. The modern prayer for the state of Israel from the New Siddur says, Sur Yisrael v'goalo, as ours does in our Siddur. Rock and Redeemer, bless the state of Israel, the dawning of our redemption. Rabbi Samuels has written, Sur Yisrael v'goalo, rock and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel at this moment when its foundations are shaking and the splendor of its skies are darkening. So if we just compare those three, what do you see? What stands out to you? Marking the dawn of our deliverance.
So in the beginning, it's a newness. We're just here, we've just arrived after so many thousands of years. And then in the middle, we're comfortable here. And now at 75, we're threatened from all sides, but we're praying for peace.
Okay, so there's a progression maybe not a progression we wanted to see in the third column. And again, she's not the only person that's written a prayer for Israel at this time. But there's a very different sentiment in the third column. What about the idea of the dawn of our deliverance? I want you to note, if you have your hand in the prayer book, if you can look at ours, it doesn't say that. It says, Hag Shamat Tikvatenu. And again, I'm sorry that can't get all the Hebrew and the English on the same page. But the word Hag Shama is a term that comes really from the Zionist youth movements, from the kibbutz movement. A Hag Shama is defined as a practical realization. So our prayer book says, Rock and Redeemer, place your blessing upon the state of Israel. A Hag Shama, a practical realization of our hope, versus the dawn of our deliverance. For analyzing the words, what's the sense? A Hag Shama really is a key term in modern Hebrew literature. And it was a term that conveyed the essence of activism. That's the efforts that the people went to give life to this age-old dream. And Hag Shama is, as Rabbi Josh Weinberg, who is the president and director of ARTSA, says, it's really about a desire to meld opposites and form consensus, continuing to think and create and to build together, realizing that there are different parts and different perspectives. So Hag Shema, he actually says, he wrote a couple of weeks ago that he felt that that word Hag Shema is quintessentially what we need to be thinking about at this point in Israel's history. What I see in the first column, though, that idea of dawn of deliverance or redemption. Very different perspective, because of course where we were 75 years ago, surely.
It hits me that that prayer reflects on the fact that we've just come through the Holocaust, and so it's our deliverance from that period of time.
It's just rebirth in a certain sense out of the ashes of the Shoah, right? There's also something, I think, going further back in our history, that idea of redemption. There are really three major themes in the prayer service every day: creation, revelation, redemption. So those words that the chief rabbi of Israel used in this prayer was really giving it a connection to something greater, something larger, something beyond what we ourselves as human beings could create. There's a theological language here that this is something that, much as we wanted it and prayed for it and worked for it, couldn't have happened only by ourselves. So there's that I think is much a part of this, and that it's a divine fulfillment of the promise that God made to the Jewish people, and a divine promise to redeem the world. That's our task now. What of the third column? When its foundations are shaking, the splendor of its skies are darkening. What do you see there other than the obvious? And it has not been an easy week in Israel this week.
After so many wars, one after the other, automatically, the foundation and shaking, the stability of Israel.
So it's a recognition that there have been continued to be wars even 75 years later. Many Israelis talk about how much they pray and hope, and there have been many songs written about this, that they'll be the last generation that has to go to war, that their children, their grandchildren won't have to do that. Arlene?
There could also be another sense when the foundations are shaking. It was based on a free country, a democratic country, maybe the country itself, not just from external threats, but internally maybe isn't fulfilling the hope of what we wanted in the country.
So there's not only external threats, there's also internal threats at this time. And we see the foundation shaking. I mean, that references text in the Tanakh in the Bible also, right? The idea that foundations shake, and where do you turn? What do you look to at that point? You look to God. You go back to the original is the dawn of our redemption. If in fact this is meant to be a divine event, then we need intervention from on high. Yes.
It seems, this is what I'm reading, and I'm sure there's other stuff to read. All the protests in Israel, not all, okay. I'm hearing that it's the secular end, the secular's support for protest that's really going to preserve national state of Israel. Because you're saying it's God, it's returning to God. And I see that in the words, but the reality seems to suggest that it won't be God alone. It'll be what the people do, especially if they do it in God's name. Well, what action will it be? And it's the secular sectors that seem to be taking it on with a kind of ethical zest. So maybe they're with God too, without proclaiming the name of God all the time.
I think that's very true, actually. Rabbi Samuel is a very active member of the Reform Rabbinate there, and much of her community, and really most of the Reform community, is very actively involved in the protests that are going on.
But some people don't proclaim any name. I get pictures from my relatives in Israel of their teenage and like less than 10-year-olds even, you know, out with the flag and protesting on marches, and they're not screaming in God's name, you know.
You're absolutely right. They're not screaming in God's name, and I think even those who consider themselves to be religious but not Orthodox.
Yeah, I mean they're practicing Jews. They're very observant, but when they're marching, I don't know. That's what I hear. I'm not there, and yeah. I'd like it to be in God's name, believe me, I mean, I'm here. Not just because I'm here.
Well, I think that there are many ways to understand this, and that's why I'm asking, what do you see here besides the obvious, right? Yeah. So you see that there is theological teaching in here. You see that this is that people themselves are shaping the foundation. It's definitely, I think, written out of a lot of distress, pain, worry. That's the reality of where we are now at this point. We hope that you know, things will change for the better. But it's a reflection, and I have actually a pile here of others. I can't share them all with you this morning in the short time that we have, but there are numerous, as I said, numerous prayers or iterations of those prayers that have been written over the last 75 years. And in different communities, they have different wording. Yes?
Just on it's a bit of a sour note, but it's just a reality. My sister-in-law recently was in Israel, and they have family there that live in the north, pretty close to Lebanon. And they're in their 30s, 40s. That entire community all hold passports outside of Israel, like not only Israeli, but and they say, you know what, when the time is right, they're going to go. I get there, so I read this too as this commitment to Israel, commitment to the homeland, and commitment, and how much are we going to endure to keep it? But they're just so, I guess, disheartened. There's just, you know, future for their children, and a nonstop, obviously, conflict. But it's really, it's shocking, actually.
It's definitely worry and concern, and it's interesting that you say that they're looking passports to other places, because growing up, my mom was here this morning, she always said we need to have a passport. And Israel is our homeland, and it's supposed to be our safe space. So that's a challenge, definitely so. So asking for peace and praying for peace and working for peace, those are all in some ways the same and in other ways different things. I'm going to look down. We don't have a lot of time to go through every column here, but I'm going to look at a couple more of them. So I want to look at the third one, send thy light and thy truth. To its leaders, officers, and counselors, direct them with thy good counsel. God, strengthen the defenders of our holy land, grant them salvation, crown them with victory. Establish peace in the land and everlasting joy to its inhabitants. The middle column, may a spark of your spirit inspire the actions of its elected leaders and officials, judges and advisors, that they may follow the path of justice, liberty, and righteousness. Strengthen the spirit in the hands of those who build and protect our holy land and grant them salvation and life. And the third one, bestow your light and truth upon our leaders, judges and elected representatives, those struggling to defend its institutions, the citizens crying out to protect it, filling its streets in a struggle for its soul, strengthen defenders of our holy land. Anything that you see that's worth commenting on, pick up the differences here between these. I think that Again, it's reflective in many ways of the times in which they were composed. And the third one, of course, speaks directly to where we are now. What's interesting to me, as we look down a little bit further, is the fourth column, where it's kind of blank in the middle column. Remember our brethren, the whole house of Israel, and all the lands of their dispersion. Speedily let them walk upright to Zion, the city, to Jerusalem, thy dwelling place, as is written in the Torah of your servant Moses. Even if you are dispersed in the uttermost parts of the world, from there the Lord your God will gather and fetch you. The Lord your God will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. So again, we have very much, it's not just a prayer for the government, it's also a proclamation of belief that God will bring us back, that this is in God's hands. And in the third column, Rabbi Samuels is speaking about that all of us, we don't have to live there, but we are all connected. That we need to be supportive, we need to work together, that it's our state, even if that's not where we live, even if we never intend to live there. So, Zach.
I was struck by the fact that Rabbi Samuels uses the word struggle or struggling twice, and obviously Israel, people of Israel, person who struggles with God, right? It strikes me that it's inherently, it's part of our job as Jews to continue to fight for Israel, and also just to struggling with God. There's something to live in that, like protecting institutions, and also just recognizing that it's it's democracy, and it's struggling for its existence at this point.
Yeah, we are Israel. We are ones who wrestle, ones who struggle, and even in the midst of it, we still have to have hope. Even in the midst of it, we still recognize that there is something that we have built, that we can continue to build, and that even though things are difficult, we live with that hope. That's, after all, why the national anthem is Hatikva, the hope. I'm going to look at the back page. And again, in the third column, Rabbi Samuels does something that, of course, the first column wouldn't do. The second column, I think, was just much shorter prayer. But she says, open our hearts that we might hear our neighbor's pain and hopes. Teach us to always renew the inherent goodness in the creation of the state. Meaning, we have been given this good land. We have been given this opportunity to build a Jewish state. But we also recognize there are others that are here with us and named in place, and we need to find some way to live together. And she goes on to say, remove from among us hatred and enmity, zealotry and malice, and plant in our hearts love and companionship, shalom and friendship. So there is, again, that idea that there is hagshama. There's a practical realization of where we are at this moment, and that we still have opportunities to build if we choose to do so, that we want to work for a society in which liberal Jewish movements are recognized along with the Orthodox religious streams equally. That is very much part of the struggle for our movement in Israel. For a society where everyone is respected regardless of how you observe Judaism. And that combats racism and discrimination and hatred that's going on in society. And I think as well, pursues peace and security and stability for everyone that lives there. So there is much to see in that. And let's just look very briefly, because I'm cognizant of the time and that we're going to have a lovely Israeli luncheon in a little while. Let's look at the last column where we end. Unite our hearts to love and revere your name, and observe all the precepts of Torah. Shine forth in your glorious majesty over all the inhabitants of the world. Let everything that breathes proclaim, God of Israel is the ruler. God's majesty rules over all. Amen. Second column. Plant within their hearts the love of Zion. May those of our people who are so inspired come to Jerusalem, your city. The third column, plant in our hearts love and kinship, peace and friendship. Speedily fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And let us say amen. And finally, if you look at our prayer in our Siddur, may the vision of your prophet Isaiah soon be fulfilled, for Torah shall come forth from Zion and God's word from Jerusalem. So what do you make of all of the what we call the chatimot, the seal at the end of the prayer, in these three different, actually four different alternatives? Which one speaks most to you and why? Anyone have someone that speaks most to you? Arlene?
We start off with the first one, that the focus is on God, and God's power. The second one on the place Jerusalem. And the third one for me is the most moving, because it's talking about the reality of we want peace. We don't want war anymore, and that seems to be the focus, not so much on God, not so much on Jerusalem, but on us creating a little peace.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? One of them that speaks most to you at this moment.
So, like Arlene, the third one really mirrors with me just because of my background, the fact that I'm the son of a Holocaust survivor. And war was everything in the way I was brought up. And we're here to go ahead and try to eliminate war, whatever we can. We want a peaceful time, a peaceful world to live in. I think the second one is more focused on Jerusalem. I think the third one happens to be more broad-based, and here it kind of takes in, just not the Jewish people, but our neighbors, peace and friendship throughout.
Yeah, peace, no war. The one in the middle, plants in their hearts the love of Zion, and the focus on Jerusalem, actually, because it's taken out of a passage from the Tanakh, from the Bible, from Scripture. I think that's why that's there. Anybody else? Frank?
Going back to that middle one again, planting the hearts of love and Zion, I think that refers a little bit to the internal strife we have in Israel right now amongst ourselves. And until we can have some peace there, it's going to be very difficult getting peace from outside.
Yeah.
We have to be one people.
And that's a hard thing to be right now. Linda?
I totally agree with what Darlene said. The only sad thing when I read number 3, we've never not wanted peace. And we wanted that like the last 75 years. Do we need divine intervention? Again, I'm really getting out there, because our neighbors don't want, well, what I perceive as. We can't achieve peace if we're the only one at the table. So do we need something bigger than us and our hopes and our dreams to make it happen? I guess it's to be realistic, how realistic this last one, for me.
Yeah. So is it realistic? And as Frank was saying, we have division even within our own people, and so we've got both sets of divisiveness. How will that play out? Again, I go back to this idea of Hashema, which is in our Siddur. I really like that concept, practical realization. What is practical? Like, how do we make this work? How do we live? The different prayers for the welfare of the state of Israel. It's the crafting of, in many ways, religious poetry and liturgy in this case that expresses our basic desires, our basic beliefs, and over the centuries, as I said, for over 2,000 years, these prayers have spoken to us about what we pray for, what we believe, what we work towards, what we desire, and these are very moving expressions of our dreams for what Israel could be. So I want us also to realize that we, on this day, are celebrating the realization of this modern miracle in many ways, as tough as it is right now, as difficult and challenging as things are, that we still have an inspiration to yearn for that Hagshama, for that practical realization of what could be, and we can't stop working because that is our dream. Shabbat Shalom. So we turn now to our prayers on our way from Passover to Shavuot. Prayers of redemption in many ways, right? From struggle and slavery to freedom and to the gift of Torah. So we're going to count the Omer for this Shabbat in case you didn't do it last evening. We are in the 6th week of the Omer, which is the week of foundation, Yesod, and its rootedness. It's our connection between the earthly and the heavenly realms, this idea of how our lives can reflect the divine in the world. So we say, Hineni muchan mizuman l'kayim mitzvah aseh shel sfirat ha'omer. Behold, I am prepared and ready to perform the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Please join me in the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who has made us holy with mitzvot and commanded us to count the Omer. Hayom shiva u'shloshim yom shehem chamisha shavot u'shnei yamim la'omer. Today is the 37th day, making 5 weeks and 2 days of the Omer. Please join me now on page 149 as we rise for the words of the Aliyah. Those of our friends and neighbors, and all those people whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We are saddened to announce the recent death of Wendy Amar, the mother of Jacques, Albert, Esther, and Gabriel, who passed away this past week in Montreal. The funeral has taken place, and the Shiva continues in Montreal. May her memory always be for a blessing. We are in Shloshim at this time, the first 30 days of mourning for Morty Green, the uncle of Cheryl and Kevin Shine. And we recall the names of the following Zertzeit, the anniversary of whose death occurs this week. Samuel Copeland, the father of Jeff and the father-in-law of Carol. Yaakov Wiersba, the father-in-law of Lila and the father of the late Mike and Sam. Tim Weber, the brother of Jocelyn. Royston Weber, the father of Jocelyn and the grandfather of David, Matthew, and Sarah. Sylvia Kaiser, the mother of Jeff Kaiser, mother-in-law of Jocelyn Weber, and Richard Kaiser, the brother of Jeff. Maurice Edelman, the father of Neil and the grandfather of Jenna and Alana. Rhoda Moldovsky, the sister of Josie Eamon. Bella Forgax, the father of Judy Miller. Alfred Itzhak Assenheim, the father-in-law of Ruth and the grandfather of Mark, Naomi, and David. Clara Van Tyne, the mother of Leo and the grandmother of Lisa, Michael, and Rachel. The great-grandmother of Ethan, Yasmin, and Jaden, and Asher. Frida Haller, the mother-in-law of Leah and the mother of the late Willie, the grandmother of Aviv, Ron, Phillips, Vivian, and Matthew. If there's anyone else that you are here to say Kaddish for this morning, you're invited to speak their name aloud at this time. We ask those who are mourning to please rise first. We say to Min Hamakom Tinachamu, may you find comfort in God's sheltering presence. Now as a community, we all rise to support those who are mourning and to say Kaddish who have no one to say it for them. Page 159. Yikadal Yikadash Shemala, Be'alma Digra Kirte Yamlik Malchute, B'chayekom B'kyomekom, B'chayet B'chobeit Yisrael, Ba'alav Yisman Kari V'Romeh, Yehei Shmei Rabba Marach, Le'alam Olamei Amaya, Yitbarach V'Yishavach, Yitpa'ar V'Yitorma V'Yitnaseh, V'Yitadar V'Yitaleh V'Yitalal Shmei V'Yishar V'Yihu, Le'elam Mikol Birkata V'Shirata, V'Shukata V'Nechemata, Damiram Be'alma V'Yitbaromeh, Yehei Shlama Rabba V'Shemaya, B'chaim Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael V'Yitbaromeh, Oseh Shalom V'Yitbaromeh, Tuyaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael, V'Kol B'nei Adam V'Yitbaromeh. May the source of peace and peace to all those who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved among us, among all of our people, and among all the nations and families of earth. And let us say together. Amen. Please be seated. It's my pleasure at this time to call upon Joel Brown, representing our board, to bring greetings and announcements.
Thank you, Rabbi, and Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
I want to begin by thanking Nicole, our Rabbi, for today, and Arlene and her whole task force who have been preparing for our Israeli Kiddush that everyone is welcome to join us for right after the service in the social hall. And let me tell you about some of our upcoming services. Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. is our morning menu, so please join us for that. And next weekend, on Friday, May 19th, is a regular Erev Shabbat service at 8 p.m. And on Saturday, May 20th at 10 a.m. is our regular Shabbat service, and we will be celebrating Zach Harper's Bar Mitzvah. Some other things coming up. Tomorrow, Sunday, May 14th, is the last day of Beit Sefer. It's a special Parents' Day. So please join us for bagels and coffee and some fun activities for the kids outdoors, so dress accordingly. And also coming up, Tuesday, May 23rd, is our next Lunch and Learn session led by Rabbi Bill Tepper. It's at 11:30 a.m. and it will be in person here at Solel. And Rabbi Tepper will be talking about the experience of the deaf and disabled during the Holocaust. Also, Thursday, May 25th at 6:30 p.m. is our Shavuot dinner, which will precede our Shavuot service at 8 p.m. We will be honoring our recent JIC graduates then. If you'd like to join us for dinner, there is a modest fee involved. Please contact the office to register. And for everything else, check your inbox at solel.ca.
Joel, can I just add one more? I want to thank everybody who sponsored our Bait Safer Solel team so far for the UJ Walkathon. We're almost at $2,000.
Treasurer Arlene and all of her supporters.
So let's turn together to the words of Hatikva on page 177, and we rise. For Shabbat morning, so that we can join together in enjoying our Oneg Shabbat. Page 164.
We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, b'tei avon.
B'tei avon, Shabbat shalom. It was worth coming to shul just for Eleanor's call this morning.
Everybody join us. There's a lot of pizza and hummus and stuff.
Come join us. Come eat. Have some challah. Have some food. Shabbat shalom, everybody.